Yeah, hello everyone. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. Okay, so hello Flampelt, hello Iced, hello Kapil Singh, Practical Thinking, Chesswear, Om Gada, Rushil. Ah, thanks for that, Chandrasekhar, Shailaja, Chess King. So, good evening everyone. Okay, so I'm now staying away from the mic. So, before I begin the session, is my audio still clear? So, yeah, okay, okay. Thank you very much. So let's go to the session. So I've been working with players from different generation. One moment, I'll just mute the volume. Yeah. So what I have seen over a period of time is that there are some players who are able to find the right rhythm, right from the start. They are able to find the right rhythm. When they are analyzing, they are able to bring out their best qualities. Yeah, hello, Mr. Magical Chef. Good evening. Yeah, hello, Tasmai, Chess Viewer Base, Chess King Shivam, Shailaja, Nandwani. Yeah, so good evening, everyone. So, yeah, hello, Elliot. Welcome. Good to see you. So, like I said, when I work with some players, um, I'm not going to monitor the chat when I am talking to you. So, because I want to keep myself clear from any influence from the chat. So, forgive me if I'm not responding to your chat messages for some time when I am talking. Okay, so I'll just look at the camera and I will speak to you. So, the chat is towards my left on this side, and I'm not going to respond to your chat messages for some time. Okay, so please bear with that. So, like I said, some players, when they um, start suggesting moves in the classes or when they play in competitions, when they analyze any chess position, I could see that they are able to bring out their best qualities right from the word go. And but in some cases, or I would say in majority of the cases, what happens is like we really have to push the player a lot on even very basic things. For example, what is required to be a good chess player? This itself is very debatable, and everyone have their own opinions and views on this. Like, what are the qualities you need to be a good player? Hello, Soham. Uh, so now, as a player, what are the qualities we need to be a good chess player? This I find is very crucial, and this you need to know from a parent's perspective. If you are a parent and your child is playing chess, it's important you know the right kind of environment that should be there around the child, and also um, I think Shivam, for others the audio is very clear. Maybe Chess King Shivam, you could increase your volume. Maybe that will make a difference, or you can use your headphone. Okay, I guess the audio is pretty clear, right, for the others. So that will take a big burden off my head if my audio is clear. How about it, Elliot? Elliot and Arnav? Okay, so how about it now? I'm more closer to the mic. It's better? Yeah. Okay, fine. So I will not worry about the audio. So please don't remind me about the audio issues. Okay, fine. So what are the qualities a player needs? Okay, so there are three kinds of things. One is everything to do with the player himself or herself, right? So the player needs to have some qualities. The priorities should be in the right place, right? What the player thinks about the game, about how much effort he or she should invest in the game, what should be the right mindset, how to handle success and failure. So there are some things which is directly relevant and in the hands of the player concerned. And it also is very important that there is a good surrounding environment. The environment around the player is conducive to chess progress, right? So that is also very important. So in India, typically, I come from India, and from the experience I have in my environment, I would say the following are important. One, the parent support is very critical if the player is young. Two, the child should be passionate about the game. The child should be ambitious. The child should have hope that if I work on my chess, I can become a better player. And the child should be convinced that if I put good effort, I can get better at it, right? And so the passion from the child, the parents' support, and school support is also very valid, because in some countries, I have many students in the US, and they always have these issues, like they cannot go and play sometimes even in world youth championships, despite the fact that they are qualified to represent their country in the world youth championship, but they have to be away from school, let's say for a couple of weeks. The schools don't really encourage it, right? So the school support is also critical, because if they don't let us participate in good competitions, then the player will not have good practical experience playing in good tournaments. So this is also very critical. And the other thing is access to good chess material to work with, right? If I want to be a good chess player, I have to practice a lot on my chess, and I need good access to good chess books, good computers, databases, good internet connection. So the chess material part of it is also very important. And also the geography of the player. For example, in India, there are many villages, thousands and thousands of villages. There are some children living in some villages where they don't have access to electricity, even the basic requirements, and they have phenomenal talent. And I have personally come across many such children who come from really tough background. So the geographical financial position of the player also plays a critical role. And the final aspect I would say is uh, access to good tournaments, because in some countries or in some cities, in some geographical location, the player is not able to participate in good competition, play with other good players, and gain practical experience. So this is also another critical factor. So these will be the basic requirements, I would say. But if you see, majority of them, they come from external source, like the school, the parental support, the financial position, access to good training, access to good competition, access to good training material. So these are all not directly under the control of the player, right? And it is more to do with the environment and the ecosystem that is around the player. Now, I have seen many cases where the environment is perfect. No, this is Jaibir. This is not a test stream. So I ran 3, 4 test streams yesterday, and I think we have sorted out most of the technical issues I was facing, and many from the audience also uh, helped. Yeah, so this is not a test stream. Okay, so we are straight away into the business. So uh, before we go further, I want you as the audience to understand uh, how these sessions will be, right? Uh, I work with some players in India, and I'm very jovial with them. I crack jokes. So some of the moderators here, like Arnav, we have Elliot. I've not seen others yet. Soham. So they know that I can be quite funny, but I can also be very professional at times. So when I'm teaching, I sometimes tend to get pretty serious about what I'm teaching because I'm really emotionally involved in this whole thing. So if it gets too serious for you, kindly bear with me. Okay, so let's go to the thing. So most of the things, if you see, it is outside the player's control, right? The environment, the ecosystem, and the player cannot really influence it beyond a certain point. But if you see, uh, there are many players, everything is perfect, they have access to good coaches, they have access to good preparation material, okay, and they have access to quality tournaments they can play. So the parents are very supportive. Finance is not a constraint. School is supportive. And despite having a fantastic ecosystem around them, which is very conducive to chess progress, it is also, I've seen like there are some qualities which is not brought out, I would say. I wouldn't say it is lacking, but there are some qualities in the player which has not been polished and brought out. And as a result, the player is not making good progress. Okay. So practical thinking and chess king Shivam. Okay, so please don't spam the chat. Okay, so as I said, when I am teaching something which I feel important, I will not be looking at your chat message. So moderators Arnav and Elliot, uh, please take care of that. Okay, so don't spam the message typing same stuff again and again if they don't respond. Okay, it's very distracting. Chess king Shivam and practical thinking. That's a request from me. Okay, fine. So now I'm not going to go into the external things which is beyond the control of a player. Okay, but as a player, you want to focus on bringing out your best, right? We all came to chess uh, hoping that we will become great players and we will achieve a lot of good stuff in chess, right? We came into chess with a lot of hopes, and sometimes what happens, the kind of progress which we were expecting, it does not happen, right? We thought we will become an international master or a grand master very soon, and it is not happening. It's taking more time than necessary, or sometimes we feel like maybe I'm not going in the right direction, maybe I'm not making enough progress as much as I would have liked to, right? So one moment, I should keep the chess.com guy happy. Otherwise, so I'll just make a move once in a while. Okay, so we'll come to the chess part little later. Okay, but before that, I want to prepare your mind for what we are going to see. Okay, I want to lay down the context before we go into the chess part. So many times, what happens is like if we are not working hard at the early stages of our chess career, when you are introduced to chess, we start preparing, and if we don't do it efficiently, and by efficiency, I don't mean by the number of hours you practice. So I've had experience of many players saying I practice 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day, and still uh, sometimes the improvement is not happening. Okay, and why is this? Why, despite lot of practice, sometimes the improvement is not happening? What is that? It is that is lacking. Okay, so these are very important as well. Okay, so we will look at those qualities from a player's perspective. There are few essentials which we need to take care. One, I would say, is the talent, but talent again is not in our control. Either we have it or we don't have it, right? And talent, how important it is, that itself is debatable. Can someone without talent be successful in any field, let alone chess? Yeah, hello, Stephen. Good evening. So, how important talent is? I would say don't worry too much about the talent part. because we have to live with what we already have, right? And I feel a basic human intelligence is connection error, it seems. Okay, so there was some connection error, I guess. Yeah, so it's raining in Chennai. There's a cyclone expected. So I'm not sure about the connection. It could be affected because of the rain, but I hope it is back to normal again. So I'm just making a move to see if, yeah, okay. So, like I said, we better not worry too much about the talent part. Okay, we have to live with whatever we have. But there are other more important qualities which we need to take care if we have to be strong chess players. Okay, this is very important in my view. What are those qualities? I would say one is, yeah. So I would say the few other qualities. First is uh, tremendous passion for the game. And you are all here watching this show because you enjoy practicing chess, right? So I see some problem in purple channel. So in the purple channel, is everything all right? Yeah, fine. So so the personal attributes I would say first is the passion for the game. So you're all here because you love chess, and either you want to learn chess as a hobby, or you want to make improvement in your chess current strength where you stand, you want to grow as a chess player, right? You have some uh, passion and some kind of ambition which may vary from person to person. And the so this is very important because this will motivate us to work more in getting better as a chess player. The other thing that is required, I would say, is the ability to learn and the ability to change ourselves. Because in my practical experience, I have seen that some players they have very strong views on certain issues and they are not willing to consider alternative viewpoints can exist, or there could be other ways of handling the same issue, right? So it is very important we have good learning ability, and learning happens when we have the capacity to change ourselves. So currently I may think like rook and pawn endings are boring. So let's say currently I feel rook and pawn endings are not very interesting, and after I spend enough time on learning rook and pawn endings, I change my view. No, the rook and pawn endings are actually quite interesting. It is just the fact that I have not been working much on my rook and pawn ending. I felt it was boring, but now I have spent enough time. I've learned some interesting stuff. I understand rook and pawn endings are quite interesting too. So this kind of uh, change, ability to change our views, it is also very important. Okay, so don't be rigid. Don't be like kind of inflexible. So you have to be very flexible in your learning. You should be able to accept different viewpoints. Yeah, hello Akash Dalvi. Hello, ETV. ET. Welcome. Okay, so this ability to change and ability to learn is also very important in my view. Okay, and you should have an open mind to consider learning different things, especially things which you don't, which you feel are boring part of chess. For example, if you are a very aggressive player, maybe you may think endgames are boring or close positions are boring. But if you feel similarly, if you feel you are a more positionally inclined, and then you might feel like aggressive chess is too risky, it's too complicated, I don't think I can handle it, right? You may start developing an aversion to the style of chess which doesn't come to you naturally. So that is why I say if you have a good flexible mind that okay, currently I am not good at something, but I can become good at this, Okay, with proper training, that kind of mindset you should have. Okay, so before we go into the other qualities, let's go to the chess part. So let me bring the chessboard to the other monitor. Yeah, now I have the material. So this is Nimzo Indian defense. Black has just played BB4. So let us see from Black's viewpoint. Okay, so this is Nimzo Indian, and what's the point of Nimzo Indian? So when White played Knight C3, he wanted to play E4, right, and dominate the center with his pawns. So traditionally, players used to play D5, which is called the Queen's Gambit declined, and White has various ways to respond to this. Okay, so basically, the move D5 prevents White from playing E4. So BB4 achieves the same aim, but instead of trying to prevent E4 with a pawn, we are trying to prevent it with the help of our piece. Okay, and this also helps in developing our piece and also to prepare the castling, right? Yeah, thanks, Tamil Ilkanachuvai. So here White has many possibilities. One is A3. This is possible. And this is E3 or Rubinstein system, quite popular. Queen C2 we have again reinforcing the threat of E4. It's called the classical defense. You have Knight F3, and this can transpose, like if Black plays D5, it can transpose to a Ragozin, or depends on how Black responds, it will change. And it is also possible to play F3. It's called the Samish setup. Even in King's Indian, they play F3. It's called the Samish. So this is what we are going to see today. So for F3 is reinforcing the threat of E4. Now, when I was a player, I've retired like from practical professional chess before 12 years. 2008, I played my last tournament. So I played a game against Sergei Volkov from Russia. He's an expert from my side of Nimzo Indian. And I played the Moon 98. Now, this is very funny, right? You have all the minor pieces on the first rank. So, this is a very crazy looking setup, but it is still possible. Okay. It has its own merits. So, there are other setups. I had personally suggested some of my students to go for C5, D5, and B5 in the spirit of Benko Gambit, because White is taking some liberties by not developing his piece, and he's trying to make too many pawn moves. So Black can try to exploit it by playing extremely active chess. Okay, so this is quite possible too. But we are going to see an example with D5. Okay, and A3. Now, if I go back, then I would have lost two tempos, right? I go forward and I come backward, and I don't have much to show for the loss of time. So, this is one of the concepts which I will keep reinforcing in today's session, the concept of time. Okay, and I feel this is one of the concepts that is least understood, okay, by many players, especially at the lower level when they are in their upcoming years. So, this concept of time. So, one thing that most players relate to well or understand well, it's the fact that they are the principle of concept of quantity, right? Whether you play with equal pawns or equal material. So most players, they are very good at this. They have very good sense, well developed sense, right? You feel like I should not play with a pawn down. I should not play with less material. So this sense is well developed. It has its own advantages. I'm not saying like you have to play with material down in every game you play. That's not what I advocate. But what happens is uh, there are other things which are which have more value than material. Okay, so playing with equal pawns is not always essential, and mandatory, you also need to have other important, pay attention to other important concepts. What are they? Now, one thing I would say is you need to have a good sense of the three things: quality, quantity, time. Now, this I have explained in one of my earlier streams. So, let me explain again to the audience who are new. So, the quality, quantity, time. So, the quantity is easily understood, like I said. You just count the material on the board, and if you say you have equal pawns, equal pieces, then you feel the position is equal. How many of you feel that way? So, you just count material, equal pawns, equal pieces, and you come to the conclusion most likely the position is equal. Okay, one, only one. I don't believe that. There should be more. Yes. So we give a lot of importance to the material, isn't it? And we think if the material is equal, then the position is equal. But it doesn't pay attention, it doesn't give importance to some other factors. What are they? Now, one thing I would say is king safety. Okay, king safety is very important. Now, what do I mean by king safety? One, you need to keep your own king safe, right, from all possible attacks from the opponent. And the other thing is you need to also ensure that your opponent's king doesn't remain safe throughout. At some point, he should feel some danger to his own king because we have some possibilities to attack, give threats against his king. This is also very important. Okay, we should not give that safe feeling to our opponent all the time. Okay, so this king safety is very important. Now, the second most important I would say is piece activity. So, most of the students who have been working with me for some time, you would already know this. So, the active pieces or the quality of your pieces is extremely useful. Now, in some positions, there will be a direct attack against the opponent king possible, right? You will be able to attack the king directly. In such cases, only your attacking skills and also your calculation skills will come into play, will decide how the game is going to end in your favor or not, right? But in positions where both kings are relatively safe, then how do we assess a position? How do we decide who is better? And how do we decide what kind of a plan I should implement, right? This is also there. So, in cases where both kings are reasonably safe, then what should we value more? So, what I feel is you have to value the activity of your pieces, the quality of your pieces. Okay, if your pieces are active, then it can compensate you for lot of other drawbacks in your position. Okay, if your pieces are active enough, even if you are a pawn down, you can play with confidence that because my pieces are active, even though I'm a pawn down, I still have survival chances or even I can be better. So the active pieces are extremely important. Okay, and third, I would say material. You count the material, equal pawns, equal piece, all this stuff, which we anyway do, right? And this I don't have to explain too much. And the fourth, I would put all other stuff like pawn structure, having a good pawn structure. Okay, and I also understand many upcoming players, they give too much importance to pawn structure. Okay, so you don't have to give too much priority to pawn structure in open positions or when you are attacking the opponent king and so on. Basically, in dynamic positions, the pawn structure won't play a major role. It's more relevant to have active pieces. Okay, so the pawn structure, having a pass pawn or having more space than your opponent, right? A two bishop advantage. So these kind of things will not be very relevant if you are not dominating in the other critical areas like the king safety or piece activity, right? So this is very important. Okay, so now we will see, and there is another way to look at the position. So one way I mentioned is like first give importance to king safety, by which I mean keep your king safe, and don't let your opponent king to be safe. Okay, give a lot of importance to this. So if you can sacrifice a pawn and make your opponent's king weak, right, expose, if you can expose his king, or if you can, by sacrificing a pawn, you can prevent your opponent from castling, trap it in the middle of the board, or let us say he has already castled, but by giving a pawn sacrifice, we break the pawn cover in front of his king. So basically, by some means, if you can influence or weaken the opponent king adversely, then you should be ready to give up a pawn. Okay, so it means material I'm putting it as a number 3, right, and king safety number 1. So to achieve number 1, which is weakening the opponent's king, you can give up on the 3. You can go behind on point 3. Understood? So now, is it relevant in the opening also? That's what Chess with Sagar is asking. And I think definitely yes. Now, where, and like I said, one way to assess the positions is, yeah, so like Jaiveer says, the f3 pawn is blocking the knight on f3 path. Yeah, definitely. So in the opening, now, like I said, king safety, piece activity, material, and all other stuff. This is one way to assess a position. Okay, so to achieve 1 or 2, you should be ready to give up on 3 or 4. Understood? So if you can sacrifice material to make the opponent king weak, or if you can sacrifice material to keep your own king safe, you should do that, because you will go down on point 3, but you will gain on point 1, which is more relevant. Okay, similarly, if you can sacrifice a pawn and make your pieces active, okay, you should be ready to do that. Okay, if you can sacrifice a pawn and make your pieces active, you should do that. If you can sacrifice material to prevent opponent from making his pieces active, you have to do that as well. Okay, so the other thing is quality, quantity, time. This I have explained in one of my earlier videos, but you have to learn the concept of time very well, because many upcoming players, they don't understand the value of time in the right sense. As a result, what happens, they play moves which compromise on time factor. Okay, for example, now if I play bishop here, what is happening? I played bishop to b4. Now I'm coming back to e7, right? I lost one move. I could have played bishop e7 directly, isn't it? So this is the time factor. Okay, at the lower level, they don't pay much importance to wasting time. They don't see many moves as wasting time, because that sense is not well developed. And that is what I want to focus in today's session. Okay, so let us see in this position. Suppose I play d5, he plays e3, I play bishop e7. Now he plays, oh sorry, not e3, f3, bishop e7, a3. Okay, so let us assume this position. Okay, now it is whose turn to move? It is black's turn to move. So what I would have done, I would have castled. Looks like a very logical move, isn't it? Now let us go to the position in this move order: bb4, f3, d5, a3, and now I go back bishop e7. Now in this position, it is white to play, right? This is white to play. Now in this position, it is white to play. But what is the difference? Here and here, you can see the difference, right? Black literally stole one move, right? You got one extra move, isn't it? So you should not go bishop e7, because you are wasting time. But sometimes what happens, strong players, they provoke moves like a3 and come back. Okay, but that will be in exceptional cases. Okay, I would suggest, yeah, hello, chess is very fun, welcome. So I would suggest that better not to experiment too much with wasting time in your games. So when you're an upcoming player, when you're trying to become a strong player, try not to compromise on time at any cost. Okay, now this holds good especially in the openings. So, in the opening phase of the game, you are supposed to develop your pieces and castle, isn't it? And also fight for central control wherever possible. Okay, these are the do's, major do's, isn't it? So, you have to develop your pieces, castle your king to safety, fight for central control. These are the major do's we should employ in the opening phase. And my suggestion, stick to this religiously. Okay, make this very important part of your chess upbringing, that I am not going to compromise on how quickly I develop on castle. I am not going to compromise on this. Now, I have a question to the audience. How many of you feel that if I castle before my opponent, it is like I am revealing my secret, and then my opponent will be in a position to launch an attack on that side, and I don't like to come under an attack from my opponent. So, what I usually do, I delay my castling. I develop my pieces, develop my pieces, develop my pieces, and wait for my opponent to castle. And once my opponent castles first, let's say he castles king side, then I will also castle king side. If he castles on the queen side, I will also castle on the queen side. So I won't come under a direct attack. How many of you feel this way? That it makes sense to delay castling, because if you reveal which side you are going to castle, your opponent might prepare an attack. Okay, so I can see many of you feel that way, right? In the red channel. Yeah. So my suggestion is, when you feel this way, that if I castle first, my opponent will be able to attack me, right? But if you feel this way and delay castling, and the principle which says you should not delay castling is especially for you, isn't it? Right? That is why they have this principle, because it is very natural to fear this. Okay, so you have to overcome this fear. Okay, yeah, chess is very fun. If they attack you prematurely, like you develop your pieces, you castle on the king side, and your opponent has not completed his development, he is keeping his king in the center and is attacking you on the king side. Okay, then what you do? You just open the center where his king is. Okay, and it is very easy to open the center and take pieces towards the center than take pieces from the queen side to the king side, isn't it? It will take more time, but from queen side to center, it is more easier. Does it make sense? Do you agree with me? Yeah, hello roller coaster, welcome. Okay, so if you're in the opening stage, you are considering castling your king to safety, and you fear that if I castle first, then the attack could come. Okay, don't see it as an attack. Learn to see it as premature attack. They both are completely different. Okay, normally an attack will work if it is well prepared with adequate pieces, and also there has to be some weakness to attack, isn't it? When there is no weakness, how can you attack? Let me explain it in a different way. So now say I have strong hands. That's what I feel. Okay, or that's what I'm trying to intimidate. So what I do, I say this is the wall. I don't know if you can see. Maybe this is the wall right behind me. So I say I'm going to hit the wall. And when I hit the wall with my hand, what happens? My hand will hurt. That's what will happen. It won't do any damage to the wall. Why? Because my hand is weak and I am attacking something which is stronger than me. Right? So, basic thing is, if an attack has to work, okay, the attack should be aimed against a weakness. Right? So, for this, presence of weakness is necessary, isn't it? If there is no weakness, what can we attack? We will be attacking a strength. So it doesn't work, isn't it? So when you are coming under attack from your opponent, you should first not panic. Okay? You should first ask yourself, you have weaknesses in your position near your king? Like if you're black and you have castled on the queen side, on the king side. Okay? So let us say I castle here. Then if my opponent plays an attacking move like g4, okay, so I'm just making some moves. Okay, so now let's say he's attacking me. Okay, so now what I should first ask is, do I have any weakness which he can attack and exploit? Okay, so do you think black has any weakness here, h7, g7, f7, which white can attack successfully? Yeah, hello Gaurang, Abdul Kalam, Shankar, Chess Masters, Nagesh, Abhishek, Ashish, RK, Shiv Krishna, Chess Demystified, Karan, Mozarla. Good evening. So there is no weakness, right? So when you have no weakness, my next question, should you be scared of this attack as black? Should you be scared of this attack? No. When you don't have weakness, don't be afraid of the attack. Okay? So I would say this is not even attack. I would say white is not attacking black king, but white is attacking white's king. By playing g4 and h4, he is not doing damage to the black king, but he is making damage to the white's king position. Do you get my point? Okay, so this is not an attack, it's a premature show of courage or bravery. Okay, so there is no justification. Look at all the white pieces. Only one piece on c3 is developed, and is going to checkmate with that piece and these two pawns. Okay, so when your opponent does this kind of premature attack against your king, please don't panic. Okay, first ask yourself, do you have any weakness you need to worry about? Suppose you have a pawn like this, then you need to worry about, isn't it? Because he can play g5, and as a result, he is getting an open file, and something can happen along this open file. But in your case, you don't have any weakness which he can exploit, right? So he's just creating bad things. He's doing some premature attack without caring for his development. It will backfire. In such situation, simply open the center. Okay, simply open the center. And in the process, if you have to sacrifice a pawn, so be it. Okay, so now maybe I will just try to get a game played by Praggnanandhaa. Hold on. 1 minute. Let me search for that game. I'm searching for the game in my chess base. So, like I said, like when you have not created any weakness near your king and your opponent is prematurely attacking you, you don't have to get scared. Okay, you have to trust your position and try to create active counterplay on some other part of the board. So usually you do that by opening the center. Okay, 1 minute. So that will be a good example to show. That's why I'm searching for that game. Give me a moment. It's almost done. Yeah. Okay. I have the game. So what happened is This is a game played between Vidit Gujarati and Praggnanandhaa. Okay, at Isle of Man, 2018, 2018 October. So here Praggnanandhaa was playing black, Vidit is white, and he played not knight c3, but knight f3, d5, queen's gambit declined, g3, and this is called the Catalan variation. Okay, and here Prague played bb4 check, bishop d2, and now the main move is bishop e7. This is what usually all the strong players play. Okay, but there is a sideline which is not very popular, as popular as bishop e7. Okay, so he played bishop d6. This we had prepared. And when he played bd6, Vidit played knight c3 very quickly. Now, if you take the pawn, then e4 comes. Okay, if you take the pawn, e4 with the threat, and I am not able to castle. I have to waste some more time to save my piece. So, Prague played c6. Now, how many of you don't feel comfortable with c6? Do you feel c6 is required in this position or not required? What do you feel? So c6 is required. How many of you feel this is required? So many of you feel c6 is required because c5 is coming, right? So this is what many of you feel. What I feel as a grandmaster is I feel c6 is waste of time. Okay, I think this is not absolutely necessary here. So why not simply castle? So on the next move, I can play c5 and try to break open his center. Why should I stop with c6? Okay, this is how I think. But many of you felt c6 is necessary because you felt c5 is coming, isn't it? And that too, it is coming with tempo. How many of you felt like this? Not just c5, but c5 is coming with tempo, so it is necessary. How many of you felt that way? And as a result, you wanted to play c6. Hmm? So, if you see, c5 indeed is a tempo, but when I play here, has this move helped white develop any of his pieces? No, isn't it? As a result of c5, he is not able to develop any of his pieces, isn't it? So let us say now he plays bishop g2. Now he suddenly realizes my king is in the center, I have to develop a castle. Okay, now I do this. I'm going to attack your pawn because this has created a hook which I can latch on to using this pawn break. Now, if you take, now tell me who has benefited from this exchange? Black, isn't it? Now, suddenly, without even moving the rook once, I got my rook to an active position. I have already completed development for my rook, isn't it? So, you could say taking cb6 is bad. I should protect my c5 pawn with b4. Well said. Now I attack. So you have to defend, right? Now let's say I take and then I take. You have to capture. Now I continue with my attack. See, I am not giving you time to castle, right? So now if you play here, okay, now I see some interesting possibilities. One, if I don't want to take any risk, I can just do this with a threat of knight c2 check. Okay, so let's say you castle. So knight c2 is not coming as a fork. I simply win a pawn. Right? So do you understand what I'm trying to say here? Now, instead of me looking at c5 as a tempo or gaining space, Now, when we were talking about opening principles, what do they say? Seize space in the opening. Do they say that? No. What do they say? Develop your pieces quickly, castle your king to safety, fight for center, isn't it? So, does c5 help in development? Not right, isn't it? Hello, Hakim. Thank you very much for the raid. So, yeah. Hi, Hakim. Welcome. Thank you very much. So, now this c5 move, it is not helping white to develop. It is not helping white in castling, right? And what does it achieve? A tempo. And maybe you gain some space, right? But in our hierarchy, where did space come? First is king safety, second is peace activity, third is material, fourth, all other things. In all other things, space advantage will come, isn't it? Right? So, this is what this is how we should learn to think. Okay. So, the upcoming players, they give lot of importance to pawn structure, space advantage, and especially tempo. If they can attack with tempo, they think they already have some advantage. Okay. Hello, Bashik. Welcome. Okay. So you have to have your priorities very clear. It's very important. Okay. So this is actually loss of time because it does not help white in meeting the opening objectives. Whereas it also gives black a target, hello counterattack, and then an opportunity to get the bishop out. Understood? So, as a coach and as a grandmaster, I would say I should not be afraid of this tempo move which gains space. Right? This is what was bothering you. You did not want to give this tempo which also gains space for the opponent. Right? Yeah, Divya. Yes. So, c5, I wouldn't say is something which black should worry about. So, you should simply go ahead and castle. Okay. But Prague played c6 and Vidit immediately played queen c2. The thing is, this has been played before. All this has happened before. So he played queen c2. And now, in Prague's preparation, he did not have queen c2. He was not very ready for this. Okay. And what is the natural reaction? What should black do here in your view? What should be black's response to queen c2? Why did he play queen c2? He wants to play e4. Okay. So what should be black's response to this threat? What should be our response? So some of you say castle and some of you say knight d7. Now Prague played knight b d7 and let's see what happened in the game. Okay, Vidit played e4 and after knight e4, knight e4, d4, queen e4. Then now if you see there are no pieces on the king side. Okay, and he was scared to play a move like castle because maybe instead of bishop g2 he can attack like this and knight f6, maybe queen h4. Okay, and maybe the king can come under attack. Okay, so and white can even consider going long castle because king b1, the king will be safe and then the pawns can roll. Okay, so something like this Prag felt and he did not go for castle, but he played c5 directly. And after bishop c3, now he's threatening to take the pawn with dc5, and then the g7 pawn will be hanging. Okay, so here is already worse. Black is already worse here, and he lost in a very instructive manner. Okay, so this game is Vidit Gujarati versus Praggnanandhaa, Isle of Man Open, played in 2018, 2 years ago. So when I was watching this game live, I already had some bad feeling about this position when Prague played knight bd7. So I thought, if I was black, what would I do? So the first move that comes to my mind is castle, right? But I also realize if I play castle, he's getting a free hand with e4. Okay, so no, Jairam, you're just here to learn, so it's fine, I guess. Okay, so this is the move that worried Prague, and that's why he did not play castle. Okay, so can you tell me how white should? So now you are coming under an attack. You have just castled. White's king is very much in the center and is playing an aggressive move like e4. So how should we respond as black? Soham, I think you will get the move quickly. Let me see. So what should be black's response? So counterattack says d4. No, he's threatening e5. You have to be careful. Okay. Melito. Black is threatening to win a piece with e4. Yeah, Soham, you got it. So you know what we should do? We should play e5. Who should be scared of opening the center, especially when the king is in the center? Black or white? Opening the center should scare white more than black. Okay, so now this looks like a blunder. Now let us see. This is the reason why it looks like a blunder, isn't it? Okay, it looks like a blunder, isn't it? How should black continue? Yeah, hello Ash. Ash Max 666. Yeah, greetings. What should black do here? Is black simply losing? Did he just blunder a piece? Yeah, Elliot, you remember. So, first thing, when you are under attack, the best defense is counter attack. Okay, please understand this. Whenever you come under attack, usually the best defense is not defense, it's not defending directly, but you should try to counter attack. Okay, counter attack 95. You should be an expert. Yeah, your move is right. You just throw everything. In the opening, what are we supposed to do? Yeah, hello Aditya. Love from Pondicherry. Yeah, love from Chennai. Welcome to the show. Okay, so what is important in the opening? Castling the king to safety, developing pieces. Isn't black doing all that? Hasn't black castled? Isn't black simply developing? Nice move, right? So, suppose he plays like this. Now, what to do? Okay, so one thing you can do is take DE4, keep the attack. He will capture, capture, capture. Now the bishop is under attack, capture. Now, if he takes with the queen, you can capture this pawn back, right? And if he takes with the bishop, you can still capture. Yeah, just demystified. Very good. So, what has happened here? Now, you cannot take queen into bishop because of rook e8, you lose the queen, right? So, what was the approach by black to solve the problem he faced in the opening? It was not blindly going on the defensive. Okay, it's going on the counter attack. This is very important. You need to learn this. Okay, so when Prague lost that game against Vidit, and I quickly checked the move e5. It was not Indian's top choice. And then when I checked e5, it initially said it is a mistake, and then immediately it saw the merit and it saw supported the whole concept. Now, what has happened is, suppose he now the bishop on d2, bishop pawn on b2 is weak, and you are going to play rook e8. Okay, so black has solved all his problems by not playing passively but by playing very active. So I would say, now do you agree with me when I say c6 is waste of time? Instead, you could have played castle, and then when e4 comes, you could directly open with e5. Okay, so this is how critical every move is in the opening phase of the game. Okay, any move that you can postpone, which is not mandatory, you should postpone, you should avoid it. Yeah, counterattack, you lived up to your name. Very good. Okay, so do you understand this concept now? So in the opening phase of the game, if you feel a move is not required, absolutely necessary, you should not play it. Okay, if you play it, you are wasting time. Okay, so let's go back to the game which we were seeing. Now, knight c3, bishop b4, and then f3. For f3, we saw d5, and then a3. So, bishop e7 is simply loss of time. Okay, so he took bishop c3, bc3. Now, all this is very well known. Okay, it's a very common theory. Now, the main line is c5. Okay, because we have given him a strong center, especially after bishop c3, pawn into c3, one more pawn is supporting the d4 pawn. So we are trying to say, I did not give up my two bishop advantage just like that. I have a plan in mind. I want to break open the center because white's pieces, not even one piece is developed. So you want to exploit it by opening the center. Okay, and then they normally play cd5, and if you take ed5, e3, and there is a famous game, Botvinnik versus Capablanca. Okay, that's a very famous game. In one of the future sessions, I will be showing that game as well. Okay, so in that game, Botvinnik had demonstrated clearly how white is better generally in these structures. He plays bishop d3, knight e2, castle, and eventually ends up playing e4 and getting a very powerful center with two bishops. Okay, so most strong players, they prefer knight d5 and the pawn is under attack. Now, what is the first move that comes to your mind when you see knight d5 and the pawn is under attack? Yeah, hi, Dignit Gamas. So, what do you think um, white should do here? The pawn on c3 is under attack. What should be the response? So, should we play bishop d2 or bishop b2 or queen c2? Different? You cannot play c4 because I could just win a pawn, right? So, I don't think c4 is the right approach. So remember the principle which I said. What is the best defense? A defensive move or 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 counter attack, right? So e4 is also a blunder for the same reason. I will just win two pawns. Okay, so e4 is just losing two pawns. So it's not c4, it's not e4 either. Okay, but one thing you should realize is defense is not the best defense, or passive defense is not the best defense in majority of the cases. Okay, so the correct move here is dc5. Okay, now I can play queen a5, right? And I don't defend the pawn like this. Even though this is very tempting to do, we shouldn't do that. Okay, play e4. Now the point is, if you take the pawn with check, attacking both the king and the rook, you simply have bd2 and you win a piece. Wherever the queen moves, this is in trouble. Of course, you can play queen e5, but that's not what black had in mind when he went for this, isn't it? So, and if you take this, I can play queen d2. Now the knight is under pin and I'm threatening bb2, and if the knight moves, both the queen and the g7 pawn will be in trouble, isn't it? So knight c3 also is not working. So normally they go back, and again it's very tempting to defend this pawn, but the best move is bishop e3. You give the c3 pawn. Okay, so if he takes queen c3 check, you can just move the king, and next move you are going to play knight here or queen here, and white will have two bishop advantage with more space. Okay, so this is already better for white. So the point I'm trying to make is, especially in the opening, do not waste time playing defensive moves. Very important. You have to play as active as possible, and that generally means you have to take some timely risk. Okay, so c5 is a very natural move, and it has been played by many strong players. Okay, but recently I was seeing the move c6, and I had taught this opening c6 for many of my young students. Okay, I feel this is a very valid setup. Now, what is the point of c6? Just a few minutes ago, when we were talking about the game with Prague, I said c6 is bad. You should have played castle because c6 is waste of time, isn't it? So, but now I am saying don't play castle but play c6. Right? So, am I not contradicting myself? Yeah, hello, Guniazos. Yeah, good luck. So, I think those videos are fantastic, and I hope you are learning very well. So, the intermediate sections, the positions are really interesting. I hope you enjoy the learning from the video courses. Okay, so now the point is, if you castle, which is the most natural move in the position, white can play cd5, and after ed5 he can play e3. And where does this transpose to? It is transposed to that Botvinnik versus Capablanca game which I mentioned, right? In Botvinnik Capablanca, it goes something like this, like c5, bd3, b6, knight e2, bishop a6, something like this, and white got e4. Okay, and then he will have knight e2. Okay, knight e2 will provide more protection to the e4 threat, and if required you can also go bb2, which will give protection to d4, and then e4 will come. Okay, so for this reason, because there is already a clear explanation, okay, to say why ed5 is bad, there is already a example. So I am not making this up. Okay, so it is very necessary to have knowledge about the classical games, so that can help you take decisions. Yeah, so currently my book, The Logical Decision Making, is not available on Amazon, because the printer, I mean, the publisher has not printed the next set of books. But anyway, I'm currently writing a book on calculation, and it should be out by April, I guess, April 2021. So, for this reason, I would say castle is bad. So, generally, people go for c5 in this position, but c6 is very interesting as well. Now, the idea is you want to go castle. So, can someone tell me what's the point of c6? Why we don't castle directly? I already explained, but what's the point of c6? Can someone explain? Yes, Elliot. So, what do you think is the logic behind c6? Because I already said if castle, then cd5, ed5, e3, it is better for white, right? So, the point is if you play cd5, I take with cd5. Okay. And now, if you play e3, I have this open file and you have this weakness, right? Which is easy to attack. And I can also, let's say, I can play like this. Hello, Bharat. So we have Bharat Harishankar. He is an international master at the age of 13. Now he turned 13 during the pandemic lockdown, but he became an international master when he was 12 years old. And his rating is, if I'm not mistaken, 2437. He also has a Grand Master norm. So I've been working with Bharat for the last 4 5 years, maybe. So he's fantastic in analyzing positions. His analytical skills are very well developed, and he works very hard on his chess. So welcome, Bharat. So you see how black is able to get good counterplay in the center, right? Which was not available when we went for the other structure, right? So here, if you see, okay, here instead of e5 break, okay, we are only getting the c5 break. Yeah, Jason Chessmaster, of course, I know Vishnu. Vishnu Prasanna is a grandmaster. He's coach for Gukesh, so I know him very well. Ah, okay. Fine. Ah, okay, Jason. So, so let's go back to the game. Um, so c6. Now let me make it the main line. Okay. So the point of c6 is if he takes cd5, then you can take cd5. Okay. And so cd5, you can take back cd5. This is the whole point. Okay. So e3. And now we play castle because for cd5, we are not going to take ed5 and get into um, the Botvinnik Capablanca problem, but we will take cd5. Okay. So he plays pd3. One moment. Okay. So for BD3, how we have to react? So you can take DC4 and then say he played BD3 and he lost a tempo because when he takes bishop C4, he is losing some time, right? By moving the same piece multiple times. Okay. But the thing is, the price which black plays is even higher because he can get e4. Of course, after developing knight e2, so if white can play knight e2 castle, take his king to safety, complete his development, and then when he plays e4, he will have two bishop advantage and also a strong center. Okay. So black plays b6. Now what's the point of b6? Now if you see, majority of the central pawns, they are in the dark color, right? It is in black squares. So it makes sense to exchange the light color bishop, right? Okay. So the pawns are in black squares. So it makes sense for black to exchange the white color bishop, and then all his light squares will be weak. Okay. So if he plays knight e2, we play bishop a6. We are threatening to win the pawn, right? And when he takes cd5, you can take bishop d3, queen d3, cd5. Okay, now there is some funny trap. Let me show. So castle, the most active move is to play knight c6, to play e5. Okay, but in this case, maybe he can go e4 already. Okay, but there is a nice trap which I thought some of my students, which I am sharing with you now. So if he plays e4, it is losing. Why? Yeah, hello Badri, hello Suganya. Okay, Gune is asking, sir, I should study tactics more or positional play? I am 9 years old. I would say, since you are so young, you should become very sharp in your tactical sense. Okay, you should develop your tactical sense much better than your positional sense. Okay, I would say try to work more on your tactical sense by solving a lot of simple puzzles. Okay, and if you start getting them correctly, go towards tough positions. Yeah, so like Bharat and Divya mentioned, you take d4, fe4, knight c5. Nice, right? Trap. He cannot take. The queen is hanging, and wherever you move the queen, I will simply win the pawn on e4. Okay, so this is one justification for this whole setup. Okay, so what white did, instead of playing knight e2 first and then allowing bishop a6, cd5, bishop d3 option, he played cd5 first. Okay, so now we take cd5 and he plays knight e2. Now the point is, if he plays bishop a6, what should white do? Can white castle here, or he should do something else? He can consider taking this and then play castle. Okay, now maybe you try to get this e4 directly. Okay, so this is a possibility. So in the game, what happened? He took cd5, cd5, oh sorry, e3 castle, bd3, b6, and then cd5. cd5, knight e2. Okay, now if black wants, he can play bishop a6 because, like I said, all his central pawns are in dark color, and if he exchange the light color bishop, then his light squares can become weak, right? So this is possible, but there is another interesting way to play, which is knight c6. Okay, so let us see this. He plays castle. Now we are not able to exchange the light color bishop, and what's the point of knight c6? Why did he play knight c6 instead of bishop a6? What's the point? Okay, he wants to keep the bishop, but white has two bishops, pair of bishops. So maybe it makes sense to exchange one bishop, isn't it? Yeah, so Divya says e5 is an idea. Yeah, it helps in e5, and Bashik says maybe knight a5, knight c4. But even if you reach knight a5, knight c4, losing two tempos in the process, white will just play e4, e5, and then the knight c4 will not have much of a target to attack. Okay, so the point of playing knight c6 is to get e5, but he cannot play e5 immediately because he cannot play e5 immediately. Why? Yeah, counterattack. You are right. Yeah, Badri, you're right. So you can go bb5. If you move the knight, then you do this. Okay, so it is possible to play this way, and he will take, and we lose a pawn, but it's not all over yet because we have opposite color bishops. Right? We have a light bishop, he has a dark color bishop, and we are threatening to take the pawn back. So he'll play f4. Okay, and you can play knight c5 because all these light squares are weak, and you have the possibility to develop the bishop on f5 or even g4. Okay, so if you can exchange, so let's say he plays a4, I play bg4. I'm just giving you an example. Now in this case, what happens, like, this will be a monster, and this bishop is very passive, right? And here black is doing perfectly well, maybe he is even better. Okay, so white has to take care of this. Okay, so here he can play knight here and then try to get an attack against the king. Okay, so this is, some compensation is definitely there. You could go queen a4, try to go to an endgame and make a draw with opposite color bishops, but it will be white who will be playing for a win. Okay, with the extra pawn in the endgame. So for this reason, knight c6 castle, and now you cannot play e5 immediately. Okay, so we follow the opening principles and develop with bb7. Okay, now what is black threatening? What is black's threat now? Yeah, he is threatening to play e5, right? So he's threatening to play e5. Okay, so white plays e4. Now what should we do? What should black continue here? Have we learned something from Praggnanandhaa's game? Praggnanandhaa Vidit? Yeah, very good. So black should play e5. So you see how prior knowledge of some typical plans help us take decision in our own games. Okay, so that is why they say it's very useful to study classics regularly. Okay, when you study classics regularly, it's easier to learn from them and apply those ideas in our games. Okay, so now if you are white, what should white do here? Let's put ourselves in opponent's shoes and see what white should be doing here. Counterattack? No. Bashik? No. Divya, maybe. So far, okay, Badri has given the right move. Very good. Okay, so the purple channel, so bg5. So what kind of a move is this? So when we play bg5, we are giving priority to development, right? Over pawn moves. So the idea of e4 was to develop the bishop, isn't it? The pawn on e3 was blocking the bishop's diagonal. So by playing e4, we are controlling the center or fighting for central control. We are also enabling development. Okay, so now in chess, we are always choosing one over the other, one principle or concept over the other. So here, for what principle white is giving more importance? So for which principle white is giving more importance? Is trying to give priority to development, right? And quick development, rapid development. Okay. And the other thing, if you notice, is keeping the tension, right? Is keeping the tension in the center. Okay. The pawn tension, white is not releasing, is keeping the tension. And this is also a very important quality which we should learn. Okay. It is not always necessary to release the tension. Okay. You can keep the tension in the center. Okay. Now, actually, this move is something of a blunder. Okay, you can take this pawn. Now, white has two possible captures. One, he can take cd4, and two, he can take ed5. Okay, so you have to analyze both these possibilities. Now, one moment. So let's analyze cd4 first. This is not so great. Why? Yeah, so Raidu says by tension, miscalculation can occur. So you see, this is one of the main reasons why people don't maintain tension, because they are scared of keeping tension. Okay, they feel something can go wrong. I may miscalculate and make a blunder. So as a result, out of fear, we take decisions. In my view, that is a bad way of taking decisions. Your decisions should be taken from your strength, not out of your fear or weaknesses. Okay. So now you can take de4, and when he takes fe4, you can take this pawn, right? And he takes d4. Now what if he plays e5, trying to win the piece? Can white win a piece with e5? Is it possible? Yeah, counterattack. Very good. Mm, Gune, something else? e5 is a blunder actually. Why? Yeah, Badri, you're right. So if e5, you could simply play queen d5. Okay. The point is, if you play knight f4, attacking my queen, defending the pawn, and attacking my knight, I can simply win the pawn. Okay. So for this reason, e5 is not working. So the conclusion is cd4 is a mistake. Okay, because if cd4, we simply win a pawn. Okay, so cd4 cannot be played. So what else we saw in this position? Other than cd4, white can also play ed5, isn't it? So how should black respond here? Yeah. So you have to play queen d5. But some of us would be scared of queen d5. Why? Why some of us would have apprehensions about queen d5? Because of now the bishop is under attack. He will take bishop f6 and will be forced to take gf6. Right? So we are breaking our pawn structure. Now where does pawn structure come in our scheme of things? What is the place we give it? King safety, peace activity, material, and all other stuff like pawn structure. It comes fourth important thing. Okay. So what is more important? King safety. Second, peace activity. So now let us consider these two factors. Now, isn't bishop f6 gf6 weakening black's king position? And we just were discussing that king safety is very important, isn't it? So if king safety is so important, then how can queen d5 allowing bf6 gf6 weakening our own king side pawn structure be the best move? We should get this doubt. Okay, so let us see. Now, like I already mentioned, for an attack to be successful, you need two things. One, the presence of weakness. The second is you need pieces to attack, right? So, what black can do, just like counterattack mentioned, is you could go king h8 and rook g8, and then you can use your open file and this bishop, right? You can create your own attack against the king. Make sense? So even though black's king position is slightly weakened, his pieces are active. Okay. Thanks, Badri. You're watching the stream in middle of office. Okay. Thanks for the support. So even though, like I said, black's king side is slightly compromised, but white's pieces are not active enough to exploit it, take advantage of it. And more, one more thing I would say is how is the center? When does a flank attack becomes powerful? What is the basic requirement if the flank attack has to be successful? What is one very important requirement? Anyone? Yeah, hybrid knight. You're right. The center should be closed or your center should be strong. Yeah, hello, Doctor Shvishwenzang. Sorry for the bad pronunciation. So, the attack, flank attack, will be powerful only when the center is closed or when your center is very strong. Yeah, so Pratham, I will. Okay, so if the center is strong and you go for, yeah, Daksh, okay. Hello, Daksh. So if the center is strong, then flank attack you have to fear. Okay, but white's center is not strong, isn't it? So white center is weak. So if he's trying to attack us from the king side, we can always counter him, push him back in the center. Make sense? Uday Prakash, did you understand? Okay, so when the flank attack comes, you can push him back in the center. Okay, and the other factor is he doesn't have enough pieces or enough active pieces to attack us. So we don't have to fear his attack. So that is why he went for this. Now, from white's viewpoint, black's pawn structure on the king side is compromised. But how about white's pawn structure in the center? Few moves ago, white had many pawns in the center, not anymore. So just like our pawn structure is compromised on the king side, we also see that white's center is compromised, right? White's center is compromised. Okay. So if you are white, how should you play? Yep, thanks, KP. Yeah, so Ramesh Pal is asking if white can get few moves here in this position to make his pieces active, then isn't he better? Yeah, but the whole idea is black should not give those few moves to him. Keep him tied up. Okay, don't let his pieces become active. So how should white continue this attack here? Or try to create some threats against the black king, because there are no pieces on the king's side. Yeah, counter attack. Very good. Badri, yes. Divya, that move doesn't really help much. Okay, queen c2 is being suggested, but I would say, see, if queen c2, what you are threatening, you want to win this pawn, right? Now let's say I simply don't care for that pawn. What do you want with queen c2? You want to take this pawn? Please do. Now who gets this open file? Right? We get the open file. And how is this pawn? And now the queen is tied to the defense of the bishop. Right? The queen is tied to the defense of the bishop. Right? And the bishop is like passive, isn't it, on h7. So queen c2 doesn't really put black's king in danger. So you see, you should not be scared of opponent's attack. Okay, you should calmly analyze it and evaluate it. Not all attacks are strong or good. Okay, so queen c2 is not the move. So anything else is possible? Yeah, knight f4 is being suggested, but maybe I could go queen e5 attacking the knight, or queen g5 attacking the knight. Okay, so I don't think that is the correct move. So Badri, I am trying to teach the value of time, where you get things done without losing time. Okay, this is the central theme I want to teach today. Okay, the value of time, how getting things done, whatever you want to do, without wasting time. And also the value of piece activity and the necessity to create active counterplay when you are under attack. Okay, so white can play bishop e4. Okay, now this is attacking the queen, and the queen has to move. Now let us consider what are the different moves possible. So I can go queen c5, I can go queen e5, I can go queen g5, right? These three moves look very tempting. Okay, but queen c5 or e5, in both the cases, he can take pawn into pawn, right? If you do this, I do this with tempo, right? If knight d4, queen d4, you lose a piece. Okay, so for both queen e5 and c5, I have cd4. So by the process of elimination, you can find this move. Yeah, if knight d4 cannot be played, then you should not play queen c5, giving cd4 a tempo. That's what I mean. Okay, so queen g5. Now this is a critical position. Let's think from white's viewpoint. Maybe I'll flip the board here. Okay, so let me flip the board. put ourselves in white's position. Okay, now if you see white, let us first try to understand the position. Okay, that way we will be able to take better decision. So first let us look at the compare the kings. The white king is comparatively safer than the black king, right? King safety is more important, I said. So white's king is much safer than the black king. Now let us look at the pieces. Now black's queen is more active than white's queen, isn't it? Okay, and this bishop is active and it has kind of neutralized temporarily the bishop and the knight because they are under pin. And more importantly, it is white's turn to move. The pawn structure wise, on the king side, white's pawn structure is better. In the center, if we take cd4, then it is fine. On the queen side, black's pawn structure is better. Okay, so white is a pawn down now. Now you have two possibilities. One, you capture the d4 pawn. Let's say you can take something like cd4. Now you regain your pawn, right? This is possible. But what is the downside of taking cd4? What does white lose in the process? Yeah, Abhishek, good luck to your exams. So what is the downside of taking cd4? Yeah, Daksh, you can ask your doubt. Yeah, hybrid knight, you're right. He is losing time. Okay, he is gaining a pawn, but he is losing time. Okay, when you try to regain the pawn. Okay, because where do you think white should put all his hopes on? Which side? King side, center, queen side. Where do you think black should hope to gain at some advantage? Which side of the board? Okay, we should play on the king side. Okay, so cd4 does not help white to play on the king side. Understood? So it's not good. It loses time. And there's a concrete reason as well. Black will play f5. And now what do you do? Okay, if you take bishop takes c6, then he takes bishop c6, and this pawn is weak. He is going to come rook here. The queen can come to e3 with check, right? And suddenly all the black pieces will become very active. Okay, so for this reason, okay, cd4 is not good. Okay, so if cd4 is not good, then what is good? Then we should simply conclude I cannot get the pawn back. Okay, so you should go for something else, and you want to play on the king side, right? So now you should ask yourself, what is the best way to play on the king side? Okay, there are two interesting moves possible. What are they? To play on the king side. So most of you seem to prefer f4. There is one other very interesting move. Pratham, which point? Queen c1. No, h4 will be too much. You can take queen h4. So f4 idea rook f3. This is what many of you are suggesting. Okay, f4 is a decent move, but there is another decent move possible. What is that? Yeah, hello Chessman. Raidu, Shekhar. There is one more interesting move for white. What is that? Okay, Uday Prakash, you're correct. So it is knight g3. So now what is the point of knight g3? What's the point? What's the point of knight g3? So now we are seeing we are not caring for these pawns, right? So basically, what is white's threat here? What is he trying to achieve with knight g3? He wants to play f4 on the next move. So let's say I play a move like this to show the idea. I play f4. Now where will you go with the queen? Now if you go somewhere like this, I can come knight h5, and you already see a very powerful attack happening, right? So it's a very powerful attack. Okay, so this is his point. He wants to play f4 now, so that according to where the black king moves, he can include the knight or the queen, queen g4, queen h5. Accordingly, he will use the queen and knight in the attack. Okay, so now the question. So if you are black and your opponent is threatening to attack your king with f4, how should we play? So I'll flip the board again. How should black counter this attack? So white is threatening to play f4 and launch an attack. So attack should be met with counter attack. Okay. So whenever you are in danger, don't go on the defensive, because the moment you go on the defensive, then your opponent will keep attacking you. More and more attack will come. Okay. So it is very clear that white wants to attack black on the king side, right? So should black also play on the king side where our opponent is strong, or we should play somewhere else? So for queen g5, knight g3 is the move played with the threat of f4. So we should seek counterplay somewhere else. Okay, he is strong on the king side, so we should not play where we are weak. We should play where we are strong. Where do you think black is strong? In which part of the board? Queen side, center. Where is white at its weakest? He is weak in the center, right? So we should seek our counterplay in the center. So you should play dc3. Now many of you like queen e3. Okay, many of you said queen e3 check. Okay, and this is the same thing which I said sometime back. At the lower level, what happens? Inexperienced players, they love tempo moves a lot. Okay, so whenever they gain a tempo, they will do it immediately. Okay, so queen e3 is giving a check with tempo. So at the upcoming players level, this move is like irresistible. Okay, so what is the lesson we can learn? Whenever you are getting a tempo, okay, there is a saying which is threat is better than execution. Have you heard of this? Threat is better than actually implementing the threat. Okay, so many times you just have to say, I'm going to do something instead of actually doing it. that will have more, that will create more fear, or it will have a better impact on the opponent mind. Okay, it's fine, Siddhant, no problem. So instead of queen e3, it's better to play dc. Okay, now on the queen side, if you see, white has 3 pawns versus 1. Why is this arrow not happening? I'm trying to create an arrow. So let's see. We have this 3 versus 1. So on the queen side, black is winning, right? Yeah, hello Hemant. I'm doing well. Thank you. Hope you are doing well. So on the queen side, black is completely winning. But what about the king side? That is also very important. So how should white continue here? Yeah, so can white agree to a queen exchange in this position or not? Yeah, Divya, you can see that happening, right? So can white exchange the queens or not in these positions? No. Siddhant, can you tell me why? Because one, black's king side is more exposed. So white has the possibility to create an attack against the king. And two, is completely losing on the queen side. It's like 3 versus 1, right? In the end game, queen side pawn majority plays a major fact. Okay? Okay? So you should not go to an end game with where opponent has advanced pass pawn. So you should continue to focus on your attack. So f4. What does this move accomplish? One, it opens the queen's path to the king side, right? He can come to the king side, and at times you can also consider a rook shift. Okay, it's clearing the third rank. So our move is more or less forced. Check. White's move is also more or less forced. Okay, now how should black try to defend against the attack? Yeah, the it is possible, but this is more forcing. Okay, so how should black try to create counterplay, or how should he defend his king, which is going to come under attack? So first let us understand what is white's threat. Okay, so a natural move would be to develop the last undeveloped piece by bringing it to d8, right? This looks so natural, but what is wrong with this move? How can white create the attack or continue the attack? White gets a very powerful attack now. How? Siddhant, continue after that. Yeah, hybrid knight after that. So everyone is suggesting the first move correctly, which is queen g4. Black is forced to play this. And then what? Yeah, Vishnu, you're right. Yes, white should play queen h4. He's threatening this mate. He's threatening this pawn. And how does the rook on d8 help against these two threats? It doesn't, isn't it? There's no good way to defend against this mate, right? So for this reason, rook a d8 is bad. Okay, even though it's so natural looking move. Okay, so now we know his threat. His threat is not queen h5 because he will take queen into h5, exchange the queens. So his threat is queen g4 check, king h8, queen h4. This is his threat. So how do you defend against this threat? Yeah. So you have to play prophylactically that when he plays queen g4, we will be forced to play king h8, isn't it? So why not play king h8 first? Now what is the point? Now you can bring the rook to the defense, right? Because the bishop is already having some pressure. So this is our weak spot, right? The weak spot are h7 and f6. Okay, so we should play king h8 with the threat of rook g8, rook g7. Okay, so now we know his threat. This is what he wants. Yeah, bishop c8, it's too passive. Okay, we are undeveloping. There's no need. Yeah, so nom land says if bishop c8 you can play h5, and bishop c8 is not doing much. You're right. Knight d8 is very passive counterattack. Now you have to find a very important move for black. Which move is that? A very, very important move. See, let's count pawns. Black has 6 pawns, right? And white has only 4 pawns, right? So we have 2 pawns extra, and we have 3 versus 1 queen side majority, and the pawn on c3 is very advanced pass pawn, right? So you have lot of things going in your favor, but for white is having an attack. Now what about rook g8? Very natural move, natural sequence to king h8. What's happening here? What's happening here? Your GM Honeyball Lecter. Greetings from India. So, Shankar, Tikada Tambi. I remember from Twitter. So, I see that you're always very giving positive feedback on Twitter. Thank you for that, and thanks for watching the stream. Yeah, hello Atri. I'm good. Yeah, hello Shark Karma. Hello Doobie. So, if rook g8, what happens is he can play queen h4 with the same threat. He is threatening both queen h7 and also queen f6 check, right? And now if you play rook here to defend against the threat, I have multiple moves. One move I like. One, I can try to win the pawn with the threat of knight h5 or knight f5, but I could also consider this move, isn't it? The rook is under attack. Okay, and I am also Threatening queen of 6 check. Yeah, thanks Shankar for that. Yeah, hello genius chess. So this is also a problem. Okay, so that is why the natural looking rook g8 is not good for black. Okay, so if normal means does not help us, then what should we do? If normal moves does not help us, what should we do? You lose an exchange, right? Marons, when you play rook g6, bishop g6 is happening. So some of you suggested the correct move. This is the right time to give a pawn back because you already have two extra pawns and your king is coming under attack, right? So this is a good time to give one of the pawn back to slow down white's attack. His idea was to play queen h4, but by playing f5 we are not letting him play queen h4 now because the bishop is under attack. So if he goes, you just simply take this. Okay, so now he is forced to capture back on f5. So now let us see how many captures are possible. One is queen f5, two bishop f5, three knight f5. All three moves are possible. Now what is the best or what is the worst move for white among the three options? Yeah, queen f5 doesn't make sense because you just go to an endgame and you have these three pawns against one. So these pawns will ensure black is much better, right? So queen f5 is obviously the worst option among the three. So we have eliminated one option, queen f5. So now we have two other possibilities. One is bishop f5, the other is knight f5. So Sharkema is asking, what is the secret for a 1700 to improve? Okay, so it doesn't really matter what your current rating is. Okay, the first thing is you should believe that improvement is possible. Okay, you should not give up hope. This is the first requirement, I would say. You should always believe in your capability that currently I am lacking in certain skills. In some areas, I am not so good, but with proper training, I can become good in those areas. This hope you should have. This is the first requirement, I would say. Okay, and then the next question is actual chess work, right? So you have to identify where in which areas you are doing well and in which areas you are not doing well. Okay, suppose you are good in attack. If you believe you are good in attack, if you believe you are good in calculation, okay, so then you should focus more on that and build your strength. Every one of us should have our own strength. Yeah, Jayant, I will try to keep daily streaming. So I'm moving towards it. I want to stream on a regular basis, but the problem is like I'm also a chess coach and I have many students whose needs I have to take care of. Okay, so that is why currently I'm not able to stream on a daily basis, but I'm moving towards that. I'm trying to make my schedule flexible so I can stream more often. But I take your suggestion seriously. I will try to do that more. Okay. So it's very important you feel that I can improve, and you also should have a good feeling of your own strengths and weaknesses. Okay. Now there are two approaches. So Sharkema says my strength is losing. Okay. Now you said your rating is 1700, right? So it's obvious your results will not be like Magnus Carlsen or someone like him. Okay, so don't have such expectations. Okay, so it's very important to be realistic. Okay, so first thing, improve your skills. Now there are two approaches to this. One, you can try to build new strength areas. Okay, or you focus more on building strengths. Okay, the other is trying to overcome your weaknesses. In some areas, you may feel I am not so good, I am weak. So you can try to eliminate or get better in those weak areas. So these are the two approaches. One, removing your weakness. Two, building new strength. Okay. Now, generally, what happens is most of the players, they think, not just players, many coaches also, they think that if I eliminate my weaknesses, like, then I'll start playing better chess. Okay, it is something like, let us say there is a bucket. Okay, there is a bucket and full of water. Okay, you're trying to fill the um, Vikram, collab with some popular streamers and increase the subs. Okay, to be honest, I'm not streaming to get a large following, but what I'm more interested is if I can help even a few of you in the right direction, I would feel more rewarded. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to, I'm not good at anything other than chess, so I have nothing much to contribute. Okay. So I'm not an entertainer, so I agree. So I'll try to stick to my strength. Okay. So what I was saying sometime back. Yeah, so many coaches also they feel like removing weaknesses is very important. Okay. Now let's say I have a bucket and there are many holes in the bucket. Okay. And you try to fill the bucket with water. What happens? Can you fill the bucket? Not possible, right? Because the water will keep leaking through the holes. So if you plug all the holes, so let's say there are 3 holes in the bucket and you plug all the 3 holes, then what happens? Then you can fill the bucket, right? So this is the approach most players and coaches take. So they feel there is something wrong with my chess. I'm weak in some areas, and then if I remove my weaknesses in those areas, then I can play chess without any mistakes, something like this. So I'm making 2 3 mistakes, like the 2 3 holes in the bucket, and if I can remove those holes, then I can play better chess, right? So Badri says audio can be improved. How is the audio for others? Is it worse? Do you need a headphone? Audio is okay or not so good? Okay, so some says sound is very good. Okay, fine. So, like I said, um, so many of us think we have some weaknesses, and if we remove those weaknesses, yeah, Vikram, I understood. It was with good intention. I agree. I don't deny that. Okay. So, but I feel the more and more you focus on your weaknesses, okay, I feel we are focusing on the negative too much, negative side of us too much. Okay. So, I would rather focus on building strengths rather than eliminating weaknesses. So, let me explain this in detail. Okay. So, now let us say there is a 10-year-old child. Okay. There is a 10-year-old child and there is a 20-year-old adult. Okay. Now, they are same person. Okay. They are same person. Now, you are meeting the child when he was 10 years old. Okay. And you see the guy is very thin. But the same guy, he became 20-year-old and he is very strong now. Okay. So, can you say the 10-year-old is a weak person? In comparison to 20-year-old, yes. But the person is same. Okay. But the correct comparison would be you have to compare a 10-year-old with a 10-year-old. Okay. And then you would see is not so weak. Okay, so it is very important that when we are trying to when we are in the path of improving our chess, okay, when we are trying to improve our chess, there will obviously be some weak areas. Okay, there will obviously be we will be weak on some areas. So don't think of them as your weaknesses. I would rather say they are absence of strength. Okay, they are absence of strength. Okay, we are building strength, we are learning new weapons, new tricks of trade. Okay, and then we will become strong. Okay, so this is what I want to say. So don't think, if you are not good in some areas, don't think of yourself to be weak. Okay, you just accept that I am getting better, I will get better in all the areas. This will be a better approach. Okay, so f5 is good. Now let's get back to the position. I already mentioned queen f5 getting to endgame is not good. And bishop f5, what is wrong with this move? What is wrong with bishop f5? Jayant, just that will be like astrology, prediction, right? I don't believe in predictions. He is doing his job. Let's see how it goes. So what should be done for bishop f5? Now, if you play rook g8, then the same problem, isn't it? I play here, threatening mate, and you already lost this pawn, right? So what you should do is go knight d4. Okay, now the point is you cannot play queen h4 because I will simply take this, right? And what kind of a move knight d4 is? What kind of a move knight d4 is? Yes, Daksh, you're right. Okay, the knight d4 move is a very active move. It's a forward going move. Okay, so this is how you should always defend with your own threats. You are making white pieces to defend, and if I go back, okay, I can continue with my attack, active defense, right? So suddenly all the attack has stopped, and look at my bishop, very powerful, and this pawn is very dangerous, knight is very strong, right? So not bishop f5, not queen f5, so he has to take knight f5, right? But now we can play rook here, queen h4. Now there is no threat of mate, but he is threatening queen f6 check. So what should we do here? He is threatening queen f6. So how should we defend against this threat? No, nom land, not necessarily. Yeah, Arnav, you're right. So past kid, you can check on internet, Google www.chessgurukul.com. You'll get all the information. Yeah, so he's threatening queen to f6 check. So we play rook g6. Now the point is, had I not given this pawn and played rook here, queen h4, rook g6 without giving this pawn, he could simply take, isn't it? So that is precisely why we first gave the pawn, blocked bishop's diagonal, and then we play rook g8. Okay, so now he cannot, he did go here threatening queen f6, he played rook g6. Okay, and now he plays knight h6, attacking the rook and also the pawn. What should we do? Vaishali, it seems others feel the voice is fine. So maybe you should increase your volume, Vaishali, or maybe use a headset. Yeah, it is a discovered attack. How do we defend against both the threats of bishop g6 and knight f7? How should we defend? So the correct way to defend is again give the next pawn. Okay, you should play f5. Okay, now there are two captures possible. You can play bishop f5 or knight f5. Bishop f5 is a mistake. Can someone tell me why? Okay, thanks for that, Siddhant. Bishop f5 is not good. Why? Yeah, Meher knows. Let's finish bishop f5, then we'll go to knight f5. Yeah, hybrid knight, you're right. Yeah. So bishop f5, he can take rook h6. Okay, there is no queen check. And when he takes this, we take, and we have two pieces for a rook. The pawn is still alive, and you can also create your own threats against the king. Okay, so now we saw that bishop f5 is not possible, so he has to take knight f5. But again, the same problem. He is blocking his own bishop, and that gives us some time to do what we want to do. Now, how should black continue? Yeah, Arnav, you are right. Yeah, Hira Kakoti, good evening. Yeah, Kashyap, yes. Vaishali, yes. Devang, yes. Okay, so you go knight d4. Okay, many of us were scared to play this move because we thought we will lose the rook, right? But if we go into the detail, now we are attacking the knight and also the bishop. If he takes the knight, we capture this g2 attack, knight attack, right? So that is not good. And if he takes this, what to do? Now we take knight f5. Now he does not have time to take the rook because the queen is hanging, right? So when he moves the queen, you can move the rook, and all the white's attack has stopped, isn't it? So look at the bishop on b7. What is it attacking? Okay, the king side attack has been neutralized completely, and we still have our strength, which is the c3 pawn. Okay, so you see how black defended well, and he got a better position, right? Yeah, so knight d4 was very nice, very important move. You're bringing all the pieces and they're coordinating well with each other, isn't it? Okay, so now we are coming towards the end of our stream, and please give your feedback in the comment section. Okay, and if there are some specific topics you want me to look at, I would be happy to. And maybe for the next few minutes I can take some questions from the audience, like if you have any questions regarding your chess improvement or related to what we just saw today? I'd be happy to take few questions. If I want to work on Life and Games of Michael Tal, how many weeks or months should I work? Or is it okay to work on a book for 1 month and move to the other books? Yeah, so I would say don't worry. Like if you start a book, it is not necessary you have to complete the book. Okay, so if you see some games or positions from the book, and if you enjoy learning, enjoy the book, keep going. But if you feel okay, this is becoming saturated, I am not learning as much from the book, then you can move on to some other book. It's fine. Okay. And for your player rated 1300 almost, what is the best way to improve on openings? I would say it's very important. Yeah, thanks Arnav. We just crossed 250 members in Discord. So I request the audience to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and also join our Discord channel. Okay, so the moderators have posted the Discord link. You can join us. So when you are 1300, I would say opening preparation should be the least of your concerns. Okay, try to work on your calculation skills, attacking skills, and your calculation, attacking, and analytical skills. This is more important rather than trying to use improve your opening knowledge. Okay, so don't worry, spend too much time on your opening preparation. Focus on your middle game analytical skills. Okay, so Raidu is asking how to start improving. Either start with end game or tactics or strategy or opening. I would say focus more on puzzle solving, and when you solve puzzles you have to keep 4 points under serious consideration. Okay, first thing I would say is you have to solve puzzles without moving pieces. Okay, don't move pieces while you are solving. Yeah, thank you Kashyap. So the second is it's not enough if you get the first move correct. Okay, you can solve puzzles online or from books, both are fine. Okay, and when you are solving puzzles, first point, don't move pieces while solving. Second, if you get the first move correct, it is not enough. Many of us think if I get the first move right, I solve the puzzle. No, getting the first move is just a starting point. Okay, you have to get the whole analysis correct. If there are 4 moves to the solution, you have to find all the 4 moves. This is very important. Okay, so let me repeat the first 2 points. First, don't move pieces while solving. This is very important. Second, not enough if you get the first move correct, you have to get the complete puzzle correctly. Third is you should, if there is a good defense available for the opponent, you should see that as well. Okay, if there is a good defense for opponent, you should not miss it. Like for knight h6, black had f5, right? So if you are white, you should not, f5 should not come as a surprise to you. Okay, so you have to see good defense for opponent also. Not enough if you find good moves only for yourself. Okay, then the fourth is you have to do all this without making mistakes. And after you think for some time and you find the solution, and you find the solution is not correct, then probably you did not try hard enough. Okay, so it is very important your effort should be efficient. So keep these 4 things in mind while solving puzzles, and start with easy ones and progressively go towards tough puzzles. That way you will get better. Okay, there is no need to improve in your blindfold skills, Abdul Kalam. There's no need at all. While solving, just don't move pieces and solve. And similarly, when you are analyzing positions, don't move pieces while analyzing. At least 3-4 moves, try to analyze without moving pieces. Do like that. Okay, and so someone asked about Fisher. Bobby Fischer teaches chess. Yeah, it's a good book. Any good book is fine, recommended. Chess.com's puzzle, good to do, definitely. There are many websites. You can choose any platform which you are comfortable with, and chess.com puzzles are very good. And Shankar is asking, is age a factor for playing chess? I hope not. I'm 44 years old. I can still play decent quality chess. Just keep training your mind, you'll be fine. So, what is the difference between 1900 FIDE and 1900 online rated? Okay, FIDE, you play, you get the rating under standard time control, and online, it can be in a bullet or a blitz, right? So, there will be definitely be a difference in quality. And for no age limit, okay, at our academy, we usually take young children to enroll because we have a space constraint. Okay. Yeah, hybrid. But I did not become GM at my age. I became when I was much younger. Fine. So, yeah, regarding using computers or books, it's usually your convenience. These days, you cannot really do with without using technology. No, hybrid night. You don't have to lose hope. You can always give your best, right? And my philosophy is more than the result, giving our best matters more. Okay? So, if I can give my best, I'll be happy, irrespective of the outcome. So, Siddhant is asking, will classical chess be alive? Definitely. I think after the lockdown is over, classical chess will again come back to the forefront. But the good thing is, due to this lockdown, online chess, online learning, and people watching all these kind of streams, it's growing. So, chess is reaching out to a larger audience who otherwise would not be very keen on chess. So, that way, I think it is very good. How to get a FIDE rating? You have to participate in FIDE rated chess competitions. Okay. So, thank you everyone for all your support and watching this stream. If you like the stream, please subscribe to my channel and press the like button. And I'll be streaming more regularly from here onwards. Yeah, so Arnav is asking an important question. How do you be physically fit in the lockdown with many problems like rain when we cannot go out? See, I think you're talking about me, physically fit. Okay, so I try to do at least 3 days exercise per week. Okay, so I think it's very important. Every one of us don't ignore our health and do some kind of physical activity, especially during the lockdown, even otherwise. So I would suggest you all to do some exercise to keep yourself fit. Good food, healthy food, good amount of sleep at night, and some exercise to keep you physically fit. Life is good. Okay, fine. So, thank you very much, and thanks for all your support. If you like the stream, please encourage others to come to our stream and watch the sessions. Okay, so with this, I will end today's session. Goodbye from Ramesh. Yeah, thanks everyone.